beautiful, beautiful cemetery. Ever since 2020 started, I've been dreading today. It's election day, and I didn't think that it would be the day that I buried my dad. Oh, look how beautiful it is. So this is Elliott Cemetery. Welcome. David Elliott was a pioneer settler in the southern part of Grayson County. Born in Tennessee in 1817, he joined the crew of a boat on the Mississippi River at an early age. He later served as a riverboat captain before his ordination as a Baptist minister. In 1847, 2 years after Texas became a state, the Reverend Mr. Elliott migrated to this area. Settling on land at this site, he noticed evidence of early pioneers, including several graves with crude markers of a sandstone not common to the area. The stones contain no inscriptions or identifying marks. When Elliott's daughter died in 1855, he put her near the pioneer graves. Later, as other settlers moved into the area, the Elliott family cemetery was opened for use as a public burial ground. Others buried here include longtime residents, early teachers, and military veterans. My mom knew that both her and my dad would love the quiet and to be far away from life. That's why they loved the RV life so much. Our new friend, Clayton, where'd he go? Where's Clayton? Somewhere. He's the one who set all this up. He took us here after hearing what my mom's requests were. And here we are. It's perfect, Mom. Since my family moved here in May, we made it a point to watch some of Grandpa's favorite westerns with him. The best part of those moments were listening to Grandpa repeat many of the famous lines from Tombstone, True Grit, and the Cowboys. It was a pretty big deal to watch the Cowboys together, and all of us were shocked when John Wayne was killed. I grew up with so many memories of my dad watching westerns, and he loved John Wayne. Above his door in his man cave, he has a John Wayne mantra that says, "Life is tough. It's tougher if you're stupid." My dad was the best at one-liners. I hear his voice in that saying. And I suppose it was one of the reasons my dad enjoyed John Wayne so much. Whew. My dad taught us many things growing up. One of those things was how to perform. Only 2 years into his career, he named his marching band the Pride of the High Desert. Around a decade later, he renamed the band the Show Band of the High Desert. Part of our High Desert Pride was pulling into any band competition with 5 buses loaded with kids and a big semi-truck. Sometimes he would bring his bands to compete with wealthy schools in Orange County and parts of LA. He absolutely loved to pull into the loading zone and have all the other schools discount us because of where we were from. He was great at the shock value and lived for moments he had these big, wealthy bands take notice of us. My dad was countless people's greatest showman. So, Dad, it is our honor to put this last show on for you.
Good morning. I'd like to begin with introducing myself. I'm Elizabeth Garvin Stuppy. I'm Timothy Garvin's sister. I never dreamed that I'd be standing before you today at my brother's graveside service. It's been really hard for me to wrap my mind around the fact that my youngest brother was diagnosed with a rare, aggressive form of colon cancer, which took his life in such a brief period of time, and he passed on at age 62. I arrived with my husband Henry on October 3rd, and we were here for just a family visit, but I soon realized that my brother was failing rather quickly. So Henry returned home as scheduled, and I remained here with Debbie and her family. I've really been blessed the last few weeks to be able to spend many, many quiet times with my younger brother. I've had a most wonderful opportunity of having an opportunity of getting to know the grandchildren better and just having quiet times with Debbie and her children. While I was preparing my comments for today, I came across these words. You can shed tears that he is gone, or you can smile because he lived. You can close your eyes and pray that he will come back, or you can open your eyes and see all that he has done. These past several weeks, I have really opened my eyes, and I've learned so much more about my brother, and I was able to see what he was able to accomplish in the 33 years with Barstow Music Department and all aspects of his life. Looking back, it seems so vivid to me when I think back on a very special day in January. We were in Salt Lake City, Utah. It was a Wednesday, January 29th, 1958. My sister Ann Leslie, who was 14, my brother John, who is here today, he was age 10, and myself, I was 7. We were all seated around the breakfast table. My dad called and asked each one of us what we wanted. Well, being a typical 7-year-old, I said immediately I wanted a candy bar. And my brother and sister said, hey, no, he means brother or sister. So I quickly found out that we had a brand new baby boy brother named Timothy Edward Garvin. And Mom said he had the color of hair just like a shiny copper penny. Timothy is the 4th child of Robert Lee and Margaret Ann Crane Garvin. They both predeceased Timothy. I became a self-appointed helper who helped rock him in the living room, sing songs to him, and read stories. In those days, we didn't have the same lifestyle that children have today. We had a black and white TV with the rabbit ears, and we could see a lot of fuzziness, and then we'd have to adjust the rabbit ears, and maybe we'd get a picture. But we didn't have many children's programs to watch. So our world revolved around playing with regular toys that were not battery operated. We read books, we colored, we used our imaginations, and we listened to records. We always had music in our home since my mother was a very gifted pianist. And my dad was a violinist, and he had a beautiful singing voice. My sister and I took piano lessons from a very early age. So Timothy really grew up in a music-enriched household all of his life. Our father was in the Air Force, so we moved quite a bit during our growing up years. Actually, it was every 3 years. So when Tim was barely 1.5 years old, off we went to northern Italy to live. My dad was stationed in Aviano Air Force Base, and there wasn't any base housing, so we were able to live in a city called Pordenone. It was 30 minutes from the Air Force Base, and it was a beautiful two-story villa many people would love to have now, with marble floors and marble staircase. During that time, just so you'll know what time of history we lived in back then, the president was Dwight D. Eisenhower, and the United States was in a Cold War with the Soviet Union. Additionally, the Berlin Wall had started to be built, and so we were definitely in an area that had a lot of world tensions, being at an Air Force base. Timothy didn't remember much about his young life. I got an opportunity to reminisce with him lately, but he didn't remember much. But he did remember going to the Air Force Base and going to Saturday movies with me. And the reason why we were able to do that so frequently is our father was up for a second job. He was the base theater manager. So we developed a love of movies, especially Tim loved Westerns. He also remembered a beige metal pedal car that he pedaled around like crazy, around and around on the sidewalk that was around our home. And I really think that he got his love for very small cars at a young age, because this was a tiny car. During Tim's childhood, I would refer to him as my little shadow, because he liked to follow me around. When I tap danced around the house, he would try to do the same steps right behind me. And we would make song and dance routines up, and we would perform them in the family room. But we would dance to favorite musicals like The Pajama Game, Steam Heat, 7.5 Cents, and then a favorite from The Music Man, You Got Trouble. And just a couple weeks ago, Liz and I were standing at the foot of Tim's bed, and we just started singing all of these beloved songs, and Tim sang right along with us. It was just great. After living in Italy, our family moved to Mountain Home, Idaho for 3 years, and then after that 3 years, we moved to Southern California. My dad was assigned at March Air Force Base near Riverside, California. And this was the air base that he ended up retiring from, so we stayed in that area. Timothy enjoyed a typical boyhood. He was involved in elementary school activities, church activities, and Cub Scouts. One of Tim's favorite memories, in fact we talked about this just a couple of weeks ago, is when we both were in our tropical fish stage. We both had aquariums. We started with one aquarium each, but you know how that goes. You get more fish, you expand into something like a 6 or a 7 aquarium operation. So we were regular customers of Ron's Tropical Fish Shop, and that was in Riverside. And Tim would earn money doing something or other for Mom, or he would start searching through the sofa couches to see if there were any stray nickels or dimes anywhere, and he'd come up with some loose change. He'd call me on the phone and say, let's go to Ron's Tropical Fish Shop. So that's what we would do, and we'd make a big project out of buying additional landscape plants and gravel, etc. It was just loads of fun and something that we always laughed about as adults. During my high school time, I went to Moreno Valley High School, and many times I took Timothy with me to the football games on Friday night. Now, most teenagers would not want to be seen with their little brother, hanging around a Friday night football game. But me and Tim, we got along really great, and he was different. He knew how to act, and he didn't cause any problems. So why not? So he loved going to those football games because he loved the Moreno Valley High School Viking marching band. He would watch them march out in the field. He loved the music they played. He loved to watch their maneuvers, everything. And then I was also in the high school choir, And he loved it when the choir director, who was also the band director, very short man, would climb up on the grand piano and lead the choir and the band simultaneously. That was the only way people could see him lead. So Tim got a kick out of that every time. Tim was active in Boy Scouts from 13 years old to 15. He actually was able to go through all of the merit badge requirements very carefully. He was organized, and he was able to get his Eagle Scout when he was only 15 years old. That's a pretty good accomplishment, I would say. Recently, Tim and I reminisced about the first car I bought. It was a huge green tank type of a car. It was a 1953 Chevrolet, and watch out, yes, it had a visor over the whole entire windshield that I could peer out it through the windshield, being this tall. So we cleaned it all up and scrubbed it all down, and I went out, since it was in the mid-1960s, I went out and bought these bright pink daisy, self-adhesive daisy flowers that you could stick on it. So Tim helped me stick all the flowers we could fit onto the car. And then he said, it has to be named Flower Power. So that's what we did. He was an active member in the middle school Chemawa marching band, and he decided that he wanted to try out to be the drum major. And this was a really special thing, because Chemawa's drum major carried a mace baton, which was 5 feet long. So if he was going to try out, he had to obviously figure out how he was going to keep his posture straight and how he was going to move that mace around. So he took it upon himself, and he studied and practiced, and I worked with him with broomsticks as our mace, and we came up with a really eye-catching, perfect maneuver for him to do right before he saluted the judges, and he ended up being chosen as their drum major. He went on to be the drum major for his senior year in Polytechnic High School also. After high school graduation, he received his Bachelor of Arts in Music in 1980 from California State University, and his Master's in Music Education in 1985. Timothy met Deborah Marquette in 1982, and they were married September 18th, 1982 in Los Angeles, and they have 3 children, and Liz, Ben, and Katie. Tim and Debbie then moved to Barstow, California, and Tim started his career in music at Barstow Unified School District until he retired May 15th. They both moved to Melissa, Texas, and this is where they live now, and Tim used to work for Public Storage and was also a very active member in the McKinney Community Band. Little did I know that my brother would grow up to be so influential in so many people's lives over a period of 33 years. When Tim retired, the Barstow City Council passed a proclamation naming every second Saturday in October as Timothy Garvin Day. The reason this day was chosen is Timothy originated having an invitational field show competition each year. They invited various Southern California high school bands to come to Barstow and perform their field shows in front of judges. This ended up being a wonderful opportunity for even the citizens of Barstow and the high desert as a whole, because word got out that this was a really fine representation of musicians and effort on a high school's behalf. So people would attend even though they didn't have children in the band. About a month ago, Liz started a Facebook group. She wanted to collect videos and photographs and tributes for a memory book for her dad. And the response was unbelievable, and I believe there's about 900 members of this group now. I'd like to share just a few tributes that I was able to find off of the website, just to give you an example. The Barstow School Board president recently wrote, "Please tell Tim he made one of the biggest impacts on thousands of people because he raised the bar. He taught us to strive for excellence, and he led by example. Please tell him my daughter is a school district counselor now and is thriving because Garv installed in her to be the cream of the crop. We salute him. His legacy will live on as the best of the best. We love him for the man he is. Truly amazing." Another posting says, "One thing I really want to share about Garv is that he always saw you. What I mean by that is he only saw the person you were and the music you played. Always pushing for you to be better. They say raising a kid takes a village, and Garv is definitely a part of the village that made me the woman I am today." It was wonderful to be able to share hundreds of tributes with Timothy prior to his passing. My close friend recently told me that the majority of us our experience is telling about a person's life after they have passed. She said, "What more could you ask of life than knowing what an impact you have made in someone else's life while you are still living?" In Tim Garvin's case, it was many, many someone's. One of Timothy's nephews recently wrote to him. I'd like to share his message. "Hey, Uncle Tim, I heard the news of your reality, and my heart is weighed down with sorrow and grief. I am also feeling a strong sense of pride and joy. Pride because you are my uncle, and pride because you have been an amazing human being for countless people. The impact you have had on family, friends, and students is a perpetual tidal wave that will never end. I have always believed that it is better to live a short life of something rather than a long life of nothing. You, Uncle Tim, are a real something. Please rest with the knowledge, breathe deeply, and know you have mattered immensely, and that ripple effect that has inspired others will be your life's legacy. In closing, I'd like to thank everyone from the bottom of my heart for taking your time and sharing this special opportunity with all of us. I hope I've also been able to provide you with a little bit more information about Timothy Garvin. He was called home way too early. There were many things that he really wanted to achieve, but he was needed elsewhere. I love him dearly, and I will miss him every day of my life.
Loved having my Aunt Biss around these days. For a whole month, she just reminds me of my dad, so, some of the things she says. It's nice to have her close by. Okay. Okay, growing up, my dad was always fun. Except for when we were in trouble. Then his Tuesday night practice voice would come out. He even had a bit of that powerful, deep, loud voice up until the end of his life. And he knew when to bring it out. The whole house would freeze and take in what just happened. Then Dad would get a grin on his face and very timidly say, "That's my Tuesday night practice voice." I'm sure the grandkids won't ever forget those moments, and they no longer roll the rolling chairs all over the house. My friends were always intimidated by him. and I never understood it. They had this idea that my dad made me practice my instrument every day and monitored it. That could not have been farther from the truth. I believe my dad to be a big, huge softie with a great ability to connect with teens and young adults. In one of his last conversations with me, he shared that nobody taught him in school how to communicate with kids. People just got their music degrees and then all of a sudden were magically supposed to know how to motivate and communicate to a bunch of angsty teens. Besides my dad's musical talent, I believe he had another talent that he learned about himself real fast and at such a young age. The ability to motivate and to connect to so many teens is a testament to his influence and legacy he leaves with so many people today. When I was little, we would have so many tickle fights. He would lift us in the air with his hands and feet, and we felt like we were flying. As we got older, we would go down to the local Foster Freeze and get some ice cream. Then we'd walk across the street to VJ's Videos and pick a weekend movie or a game to consume for the weekend. That's how I found myself watching many Shirley Temple movies and musicals like West Side Story. Once I hit high school, I would get to have my best conversations with my dad in his 1971 Super Beetle on the drive to school and back. He would help talk me through the process of young adulthood and how to go about starting my career. A lot of great memories with my dad centered around his love of food. We knew Dad was in a great mood after church when he would announce in the car. We piled into the big Astro van and he said, "It's time to go to Sizzler." Dad didn't forget all these years some of the famous Garvin buffet dishes that us kids would come back to the table with, and most memorable was Katie's plate of 3 goldfish, 2 Jell-O squares, and some chocolate pudding. At one point, we owned 3 Super Beetles. Every Sunday evening, Dad would get all ready to fill all the cars up with gas for the week. It didn't take long for Dad to turn it into something fun. Thus was born the Sunday night snack run. Part of the Sunday night snack run was a spiel he would give us of all the rules. He would say, the spiel would go like this: you can have 1 drink and 1 snack, or you can have 2 drinks, or you could have 2 snacks. But you couldn't have 1 drink and 2 snacks, and you couldn't have 2 drinks and 1 snack. Those are the Sunday night snack run rules. He would always say that.
He would always say.
Oh, I thought that came out of my dress. Once Bucky's opened up in Melissa, near his home here, he passed the tradition on to the grandkids. He also loved to reminisce on what we would always pick as kids. He loved that he remembered I would drink Fruitopia and ranch sunflower seeds, or as he would call them, rabbit food. Ben loved his Starburst and Skittles, and Katie got Snickers and root beer. With that, I will invite my siblings, starting with Ben, to share their thoughts about their dad.
I am privileged, honored, and extremely lucky to be the only son to my dad. As I reflect over the years that we shared together, he was the best dad that anyone could have asked for. The words. He always led by example and taught me numerous life lessons of what it takes to be a to become a man. Whenever I went on about how good I was at whatever it was when I was younger, he would calmly straighten me out and say, "Remember, son, to be humble." That was one of his marquee sayings to me. It has always stuck with me to this day. If you knew my dad, you knew he had a passion for history. When Aubrey and I lived in York, Pennsylvania, when we were expecting Bella, my parents came to visit us, and we took them to Gettysburg. My dad was so excited to be there that we couldn't keep up with them. He called his brother, my Uncle John, and said, "You'll never believe where I am." As we all chased after him across the battlefield, we often laugh about the fact that we never seen him move that quickly before, or since for that matter. Especially for being a man of such large stature, climbing in and out of the little Nissan Sentra that we had at the time, to race to each marked spot and read all of the placards. Looking back, I'm glad that I got to share that with him. It was such a simple thing to us, but for him, it was something he never thought he'd get to do. I've been lucky enough to have many memorable adventures with him, from camping during scouts as a kid, to marching band, to watching and going to Lakers games together. We would often talk about football and the Steelers and the Cowboys. A couple of summers ago, he came up to visit, and we attended Steelers training camp together. And Steelers training camp is about 45 minutes to an hour drive east of Pittsburgh. It's held at a college, St. Vincent College. So we piled in I had a 2009 Subaru Subaru Forester at the time. We got in the car, and he says, "How's this car running for you? Is it all right?" And I said, "Yeah, I've never had a problem with it." I shouldn't have said that. So on our way there, I'd say halfway through the journey, I start getting a steering wheel vibration, and he looks over and he's like, "What's that?" "I don't know. I'm just hoping we get there." Figure it out when we get there. By the time we get there, it's exponentially louder and more violent shaking. So we get out, and I look at the wheel, and I don't see anything. So we try to go and enjoy training camp. I'm not, because all I can think about is that. So after training camp, we got back in the car and headed back to Pittsburgh. Or at least we tried to. The shaking became so violent that we got to the top of a hill, and there was a loud bang. I said, "Well, there goes the tire, Dad." I thought the tire had popped. My dad calmly told me to pull into the parking lot so we could take a look at it. But as I turned the wheel, the car turned, but the wheel popped out from under the fender.
Oh my goodness.
And it kept rolling down the hill. I then said, "Well, there goes the wheel, Dad." So we got out of the car, and he said, "Okay, son, you stay here with the car. I'll go get the wheel." So there goes Dad, in his Steelers shirt that's tucked into his shorts. His short shorts. And his retirement socks. That my mom had asked him not to wear in public. Running down the hill on Route 30. A good Samaritan that was driving by stopped the tire from rolling, took it over to my dad and said, "You missing something?" We always laughed about that story. Now that I'm a father, I have a better appreciation of all the things he did for me growing up. He came and rescued me from my first scout camp because I was super homesick. And I kept calling Mom and Dad collect, and I don't think they liked that. And he took me to Sizzler because he knew it would help me feel better. He was incredibly dedicated to me getting my Eagle Scout, and I earned it at a very young age because he was constantly helping me with it. I look back now and I question some of the signatures that were taking place on the merit badge cards. But whatever.
Not my fault, not my fault.
He took me to BYU basketball camp, and every day he brought me sugar babies. Not real food. You know, he brought me sugar babies by the metric ton. He took me to Lakers games. I only ever saw him cry twice. Once when he rolled the car window up on my finger at basketball camp, and I almost passed out because it hurt so bad. And he cried because he felt bad. And the second time was when he said goodbye to me at the MTC when I left for my mission. He bought me my first, second, and third car, and he taught me how to drive a stick. He always joked that Bella was his favorite granddaughter. And he so wanted to see her go to Texas for come to Texas for college. He sent me this text on Wednesday, September 9th. "Hey son, I was just lying here thinking about a night where I was driving home from my Wednesday night class at Barstow College. And we were living in Victorville at the time. I pulled into the driveway and it's about 9:45 p.m. in the fall semester. Your bedroom had a window that faced the driveway. And you were 2 years old and feeling pretty poorly because of a case of the chicken pox. So you saw me outside and I walked in on you, reaching out to me for comfort. Naturally, you were feeling bad and needed me. So I came into your room, picked you up, and we both headed for the kitchen. I got a special cup with a lid and filled it up with cold apple juice. You and me rocked in the rocking chair until you stopped crying.
Dad, please.
And you drank the apple juice. We rocked together for about 30 more minutes. Then you fell asleep. I placed you back in the crib and wrapped you up tight and snug. I haven't thought about that moment for over 30 years. You were and are very special to me. And I appreciate your concern towards me as I go through this tough time in my life. I'm feeling pretty good these days. He always said that. He said that like a week before. And I only have 3 more chemo treatments left. Take care, and I love you, Dad. Thank you, Dad, for all that you taught me. I'm so proud. So very proud to be your son, and I love you. And I miss you dearly.
Dad taught and instilled many great qualities in me and my siblings. Humor, a good work ethic, and passion are among them. However, a very specific trait was left behind in all of us as well: the love of German Shepherds.
I love you.
Whether we are allergic or not. The first memory I have of these dogs was the excitement that he had bought the family an all-black female German Shepherd puppy named Tara. Big dogs were not part of my world prior to that, but his excitement was infectious, and I was overjoyed to finally meet the black fuzzball that was Tara, my first German Shepherd. I grew up alongside Tara and watched as Dad pointed out the subtle things that dogs do to protect their families, including, as he would say, patrol the perimeter.
That's so true.
Yes.
We got an alarm installed at the house on Savannah Drive, and the general attitude was that if anyone was stupid enough to come onto the property with Tara, who blended into the night, the alarm was there. No one ever tried. I remember as a young girl wanting to bring her to my first grade show and tell day. Dad didn't think that was a good idea. And I didn't understand why. All Tara did was lick my face. He then explained that it was a privilege to be loved and owned by a German Shepherd, and people outside the family should behave with caution. It was around then that I decided the German Shepherd was everything a dog should be, and that's that. Dad often said that the German Shepherd dog guards the gates of heaven. Right, all the time.
Yeah.
I believe that Toby, Tara, Marley, Max, and Magnum were the first to welcome him home. Happy to reunite after so many years. And I believe that Rosie, King, and Capri will be welcomed into the pack of German Shepherd dogs that guard the gates of heaven, and will be taken care of by Dad, who loved and continues to love them. A love that he has instilled in me. Having that kind of safety, loyalty, and companionship is priceless. Traits I think one could use to describe my dad. And it's my honor to be the new owner of his last German Shepherd King. I have often described myself as the female version of my dad. Of course, that's a simplification, but it's eerily true. I apparently walk like him. My knees crack like his did. They didn't always used to crack, but now they do. And we chose the same career path. I remember signing up for band at Henderson Elementary School in 4th grade. Dad was in line with me. He bought me my first flute, a Gemeinhardt student model flute, which he immediately educated me on concerning the quality. And that he got it for a deal. Several months later, I got the opportunity to teach one of my parents how to play my instrument. Mom already knew how to play the flute, so Dad was up. He wouldn't put his pinky in the right place, and he couldn't get much of a sound. I later realized that he can leave the flute playing up to me, and I'll leave the clarinet playing up to him, because pinkies. I'm not doing it. I remember the first football game when I was a freshman, and while Dad blew the whistle for the expansion, the Aztec band leaned in anticipation. I remember split right down the 50-yard line, the lean not visible to anyone in the audience. I remember my degree recitals at Southern Utah University and how Dad got excited about the composers and would not stop whistling the third movement of Poulenc's Flute Sonata for years. And even remembered it this past summer. I remember his vital help in securing my first teaching job, which was no easy task. He was the first person I told anything related to music to. I sought his approval out when I programmed for my own ensembles, and he literally never led me astray. My students loved him instantly when he came to visit because he believed in them so genuinely, and he was brilliant in front of a band of teenagers. I will miss his mentorship and that special bond that we shared. I recently was given a gift from my bosses at Henling High School, and it's a stainless steel cup that they had engraved saying, "Making a difference, it's what I do." That's what Dad did with me, and it's what he managed to do with all of his students to some degree or another. Be it on the football field, the new gym at Barstow High, or the gorgeous Ducklebaum Concert Hall in Maryland. He made a difference in the lives of hundreds of kids. His legacy continues in the memory of him in Barstow, continues through me and my students in Henley, and in the souls of the musicians he nurtured while they were in high school, and most significantly in the people myself and my family members have become. I'm grateful he had my mom, his sister, and my sister with him up until the end. I am grateful that he is no longer so ill, and that he passed without pain. But I firmly believe he deserved another 20 years of enjoying the benefits of a career well done. Unfortunately, but fortunately, I can instead sleep peacefully knowing that what he has left behind is beautiful and ongoing. He's making a difference still.
The 8 months my dad fought with his cancer, he never gave up. He went through a lot in a very short time and rarely complained. He looked forward to seeing my kids grow up in Texas and be able to see Connor in a Texas marching band. We made many plans to go to concerts and go on vacations together once his chemo finished. And one of the things he'd always say is once he can put this terrible year behind him. He literally fought until finally the doctors had to have that hard conversation that the cancer was winning. That news came only 2 weeks before he passed. He took the news with peace and welcomed the opportunity to take the grandkids camping at one of his favorite RV parks. Despite losing my dad so quickly and soon, we used the time wisely and were able to make memorable moments and heartfelt goodbyes. He rubbed my back until he fell asleep as I told him my wishes for him. We pictured Tara waiting for him, and he was so excited to see her. And while I believe that he will be with us in spirit when we make those concert trips and vacations, we will miss his presence so deeply. My grandma Garvin was the youngest of 9, and my dad was the youngest of 4. They both passed away at the age of 62 from colon cancer. I never got to meet my grandma. She died a month before I was born. In one of my many goodbyes to my dad, I expressed how happy I was that my kids were old enough to have memories of him. He did not look scared to pass. In fact, it was the first time since this horrible news that he was able to RRR, which meant relax, rest, repeat. I will cherish those final weeks when we just hung out and watched Family Feud and National Lampoon's Vacation while building Legos. He passed while hearing countless messages of love from so many that were impacted by him. I am grateful for the gift of time with him this year, and ultimately I am relieved he no longer has to fight. Who knows? Maybe we all would want to spend our retirement where my dad is now. And leading into that, I'm going to have my grandpa speak, and then my sister-in-law Aubrey will sing, and then we'll hear from Reverend Dr. Barry give an inspirational message and benediction, and then we ask that everyone stand for taps for my brother.
We're just caregivers.
Yeah. I just don't move as quick as I used to. Dad, thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak today. I didn't bring any notes because I didn't know which one of the many stories I might want to pass on, so I'm going to let Tim be my guide. Yeah, was his father-in-law. But Tim was more than that, Betty and I. He was like a son. And he was a friend. And we have so many good memories together. But it didn't really start off quite that way. You know, back in 82. I get this phone call from Debbie saying, guess what, folks, I'm engaged. And we said, what? We didn't really know she's dead. We were in the Midwest, and she's way out there in California. And the last time we had been out to California, the last couple of times, she had a boyfriend. I mean, that's what they do. We went to I remember we went to the Hollywood Bowl with this boyfriend. And we all, Hollywood Bowl, well, that's a big deal. So we all dressed up, and here comes this kid in thongs, and cut off jeans. So I was unhappy. Let my feelings be known. So when she calls us and says, I'm engaged, I'm thinking of these flip-flops and cut off jeans. And she says, no, this guy is a musician. A musician? How's a musician going to make support for my daughter? This isn't going to work. He says, well, he wants to ask you for my hand in marriage. I said, well, that's different. So Betty and I fly out there and we drive out there and meet this young man. And so here's this tall, red-headed, thin kid. Very serious. But I did notice that he was wearing shoes. So that was a point in his favor. So he pops a question. He says, sir, may I have your daughter's hand in marriage? Well, now, he was melting my heart. And I felt so sorry for him because he was so nervous.
Yeah.
So I said, I wanted to make him at ease. So I said, son, do you know what you're doing? Do you know what you're getting in for? Very serious. He said, yes, sir. And I will do it. Make a good husband for your daughter. And of course, what am I going to say? No? You think it made any difference? I knew it wasn't. The kid's just being polite, so I went along with this. But it was a couple years later that I told him the truth. The reason I said yes was because he had some shoes on. And he thought that was so funny. That's the only joke I ever told that he laughed at. But he liked to tease Debbie about that ever since. So I had to tell it, right? Seriously, I certainly had my doubts about Tim because I knew how difficult it would be for someone in the musical field to make a decent living. It's hard. It's hard. There's a lot of people out there trying to do it and can't do it. You have to back off and find another occupation. But Tim wasn't a guy that was going to give up easy. And I remember how hard he worked to get the band program set up at Barstow school system, and how long it took, and how dedicated he was to it. One of the things that really struck me, though, I knew that they only got paid during the school year. So what are they going to do during the summer? Well, I watched Tim do whatever was necessary. He would deliver pizzas. He would work at the RV ground, and as just a jack of all trades, probably minimum wage. But he would approach those jobs as if they were the most important thing in his life. He would try, if he was delivering pizzas, he was going to be the best pizza delivery man in town. And he was. And that's the way he approached everything he did. And I grew to admire him for his resourcefulness and his dedication and his positive attitude about everything. And we became very close over the years. And I thank you for 3 wonderful grandkids, 5 great grandkids. He had one fault. And it was kind of serious. I don't know whether I'll ever forget him. He would never laugh at my joke. I could get my grandkids to roll in the aisle, you know, and him sitting there like this. I never understood how he could be so accomplished and not be more discerning. I'm working on it though, Tim. Maybe one of these days I'll forgive you. Movies. When Tim and Debbie moved to Dallas area about 5 years ago, Betty and I used to love in the evening to watch movies. And we liked the old movies, like most old people do, you know. And Tim has this wonderful collection of several hundred DVDs of old movies and some of the newer movies that he liked very well. And he was very proud of this. And he would bring us over 12 to 15 DVDs. He would select them for us and bring them over, and we would watch them in the evening. And then when we tell him we'd watched those, he'd bring us over some more. He has several hundred DVDs, and I think we saw his entire repertoire at least twice. And one of the things that we did this year, after Tim was diagnosed earlier in the year, I was staying out of son Mike's place close by, and I'd come over to Tim and Debbie's in the afternoon, and Tim and I would sit there and watch one of these movies. Those are very close times together. Every now and then, prior to that, he'd call me up and say, "Dad, there's a good movie out. We need to go see it." He'd come by and pick me up. We'd go to lunch, have a nice lunch, go to the movie. After the movie, we'd go get some ice cream, and he'd bring me home. And he would talk about the actors. You know, he knew the history of all the old actors and things like that, and we'd talk about it for hours. The last time I saw Tim, it was on a Friday, getting ready to go on a camping trip that was mentioned earlier. And when it came time for me to leave, I walked over and we did our usual fist bump. And I said, told him goodbye, I'll be back. He said, "Come on back, we'll watch a couple of movies." I have fond memories of that young man from the time that we first met until the last. God bless you, Tim. I'm going to miss you.
temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory,
Well, it's an honor to be a part of this beautiful service today. And those who know me know that I love stories. And I've heard so many wonderful stories about Tim today. And a verse that came to my mind, because all these stories have to do with love, right? Love of what you do, love of your family, love of life. God is love, and those who abide in love abide in God, and God abides in them. That's the best news I know. And I have no doubt Tim abided in love, and Tim abides in God in this moment. I've loved hearing all these stories from the family and the beautiful music and just the love that fills this space in this beautiful countryside today. As I listened to Debbie and Liz this week as we talked and visited, I told them, I said, all I'm doing while you're talking is watching Mr. Holland's opus in my head. It's a story, right? Of someone. It's such a rare thing, isn't it? That particularly nowadays, that someone invests their whole life in one enterprise, in one place, and touches all these thousands of lives without ever being really fully aware of how much they've impacted them. And I think that's the story that we celebrate today. That's the life that we celebrate today. To hear someone remembered as being defined by the love they have for their family, being defined by the love they had for their work, being defined by their love for hard work and a strong work ethic. What better things could be said about us at the end of our life? I love that Debbie said that whatever would make her happy, Tim was for. He was all in. And I thought about that the rest of the day, and all the way home I thought to myself, how wonderful that the people closest to you would say that about you. I'm not sure there's that many people. I'm not sure they'd say that about me. It's really made me think about my own life and my own way of living this life. Loved his children, loved his work. You know, I think Tim's life we heard today was a success in the truest and best sense of that word. A true success. His record as a band director, few people will ever come close to that. The thousands upon thousands of lives that he impacted through his teaching. Those people who now as adults attribute their success in part to him, what he taught them, the community to which he invested so much who remembers him in such profound, powerful ways. A wife that loved him for who he was and supported his love and his passion. Children who loved him back, that's so clear, and shared his interests and his love in a special way. And on top of all that, 5 grandkids. I'd say any way you look at it, that's a wonderful life. A wonderful life. I love that Tim had a day where he rallied and was able to talk and laugh and play and joke and eat with his family one last time and recount everyone's names and birthdays and tell everybody one more time how loved they were. And I imagine that he was able to live the life he lived and able to face his diagnosis and face his death because he understood what love was and that the power of love could be trusted not just in life but in the life to come. And so he faced that with the same steady hand. It seems like he navigated all the rest of his life, which really reveals our character and who we really are in the heart of us. And so I think after hearing all these wonderful stories today, it just makes me feel a wonderful challenge. And maybe that's Tim's great gift to us this day, is that we are reminded because of his life of the great power we have to change people's lives. And the great power we have when we change people's lives to change the world. The way he lived inspired people. And the way he loved turned other people into loving people, right? How he led made people want to raise their heads a little bit. We were getting the same degree at about the same year in our life stories. And I remember my college choir director saying if you made a mistake, he'd stop the rehearsal and call you by name and say, Barry, if the music is above your head, raise your head. Right? Tim lived that way with his life, right? He taught everyone, inspired everyone to raise their head. And I think that's what we embrace today. It's a celebration. It's sad because of our loss and the tears that we feel, but it is a celebration of a life that made such a difference in all of the people here, all the people back in Barcelona, thousands of people out in the world because of his life. I'm a Methodist flavor of Christian, and so we go back to John Wesley. And John Wesley had a saying that has run in my head since I visited with you all the other day in my office. He said that people would ask, how are Methodists supposed to live? And John Wesley would say, do all the good you can, by all the means you can, and all the places you can, to all the people you can, as long as ever you can. Sounds like his life to me. And I love poetry, and I love the little French poem that says, I shall not pass this way but once. Any good that I can do or any kindness I can show any human being, let me do it now. Let me not defer nor neglect it, for I shall not pass this way again. I think we have heard the story and celebrated the life of someone who did not defer all those things, but who embraced what life brought. And by doing that, brought out the best in the lives of so many other people. I think it's wonderful. Tim was one of those lucky people who decided early in his life what he wanted to do. And I don't know any other way to talk about that than say it was a calling. Right? And not only did he hear it early in his life, which is a blessing, he apparently grabbed hold of it with both hands and rode with it for the long haul. And because of that, this day, we remember and we rejoice in the good gift, Tim Garvin. Amen. Hear these words of benediction. Lord, we thank you for this life that was such a good gift to us all, and this life that continues to be a living gift in us all. May we follow the good example of abiding in love and using our life to bless the lives of others. In this we honor you, O God, and we honor the memory of this one so loved. In In the name of Christ. Amen.
Darling, you send me. I know you send me. Darling, you send me. Honest you do. Honest you do. Honest you do. Honest you do, darling, you thrill me. I know you thrill me. I know you thrill me. Honest you do, honest you do. Honest you do. At first I thought it was an infatuation, but who would have lasted so very, so very, so very long? Now I find myself wanting you and marry you and take you home. Whoa, whoa. You, darling, you send me. I know you send me. Darling, you, honey, you send me. Honest you do, honest you do, mama. At first I thought it was infatuation, but who would have lasted so very, so very, so very long? But now I find myself wanting you and marry you and take you home. I know send me. And darling, 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 you send me. I know you send me. Honest you do, honest you do.
Sowing the green leaves of summer are calling me home. 'Twas so good to be young then, in the season of plenty, when the catfish were jumping as high as the sky. A time just for planting, a time just for plowing, a time to be courting a girl of your own. 'Twas so good to be young then, to be close to the earth, and to stand by your wife at the moment of birth. A time to be reaping, a time to be sowing, a time just for living, a place for to die. 'Twas so good to be young then, to be close to the earth. Now the green leaves of summer are calling me home. 'Twas so good to be young then, to be close to the earth. Now the green leaves of summer are calling me home.
Oh,
what spring is like.